So the imposter syndrome is coming in. So look, the bad news is that a lot of these mindsets that we're going to talk about today are going to be present, whether you are about to look for a new job, you're in transition between jobs, or you already got a new job. Look, we are the same people wherever we go, and our mindsets are going with us. Okay, so that's the bad news. Now, the good news, and we're going to go into this today. Hallelujah. I love some good news. When the imposter syndrome and perfectionism comes up and feeling of stuck and overwhelmed, here's the good news is that these mindsets, so we're going to go to the core of like, what are the drivers? The core issue is like the things that we can control. Obviously, we can't control the environment right now, which is super competitive, but what we get to control is our mindset. I mean, that is the engine, right, of our actions. So the good news here is that we can change our mindsets. I would not be saying this if I didn't experience it myself. I've gone through this whole journey. So what I want to share with you today is what does this journey look like? So you can kind of see where you're at and get a sense of groundedness just from that. Many of you know in my previous career as a marketing research person, I created lots of these frameworks, and this is my bread and butter still, understanding where am I on this journey? Because if I can know that I want to go from here to New York, if I know the map, then yes, I might be stuck. Yes, I might run out of gas, whatever happens, but at least I know how far I am and what am I supposed to expect. So I'm not that lost. And I'm like, you know what, we can make this work. So I'm going to share with you this journey, which I love. Because as I was brainstorming with a few friends, I'm like, this thing is happening over and over for people. And it's so helpful to just know where I'm at. So that's number one. Number two, we'll talk all about mindsets today. And the good news that I mentioned is that these are mindsets. There are not who we are. So if you are feeling stuck, or if you are feeling kind of maybe not so much stuck, but kind of in this sort of fear, self-doubt aspect energy, I want you to know that A is normal, and B, there's a way out of it. And I'll show you how to do that. And in a lot of our coaching sessions, I don't get to do a lot of teaching, and this is why I want to do these workshops. So I can really show you guys how to do this. And I'll give examples for myself, how this works, because this is not a theoretical framework. This is what I use on a day-to-day basis to stay in the self-employed small business owner space and make money. So, this is what I'm using every day because first and foremost, I want to know that this stuff works. So you will see what are these mindsets to watch out for, because you will be a lot more empowered if you know to say, oh, this is not reality. Like me feeling like this will never work. I'm never going to make money, in my case, with this business. I'm never going to get a job, which I hear from a lot of people, or any job I get will be soul sucking. Whatever that mindset is, I want you to know that that's not reality. That is a choice that you are making subconsciously to believe. And again, I want for any skepticals out there, and all of us are skeptical, and what we'll call that voice is the judge. I want you to know that whatever skepticism is coming up when I say these things, that is the voice of your judge. Okay, we're not gaslighting anything here. We are just naming what is happening. Okay, so I will name what these mindsets are, because you will be so much more empowered when you know, oh, this is the voice of my inner judge, or you can call it my inner imposter. It's not me, because there's a way in which I can ask you some questions that is going to connect with your, what I call the inner sage. So if I say, and I do this over and over, I already, in 2 coaching sessions I had this morning, everyone is surprised that, they can come up with solutions. Why? Because we have an amazing brain that if we ask the right question that says, for instance, hey, give me 5 reasons why you are completely qualified to apply for this job or to get this job. Someone who was potentially before in a self-doubt, inner judge, victim mode is actually fully capable, because that's how amazing our brain is, to actually give me 5 points why they are actually fully capable. It's a matter of asking a question that is taking me from one side of my brain, and this is based on neuroscience, what I'm about to share with you today, because I love science and I'm a researcher, so everything I say is grounded in research. So we can see when we scan brains what happens when we are focused naturally. Expect to naturally feel negative. Okay, that's the other bad news. So expect to feel negative unless you do a workout to get into the positive. Okay, so we want to establish that if you're feeling self-doubt, anxiety, that is how you're naturally supposed to feel because that's our brain, that's our limbic system. So we are designed to scan for danger so we can survive. Okay, that's our brain is, that's right, negativity bias. So we are designed to look for problems. Okay. So not only that, we're designed to turn that against ourselves and say, what's wrong with me? The assumption is that there's something wrong with me. So that is the natural, normal baseline. And what we want is to tap intentionally into a completely different part of our brain that is related to our prefrontal cortex. Part of it is in our right brain, where we are able to connect with empathy, with creativity, with intuition, with broad, wide thinking. So part of what I'll share with you today is the aspect of focusing our mind in a way that connects to that part of our brain, right? So I call this a workout. You know, sometimes people say, well, how can I just feel more positive and confident in the moment? And I'll say, you won't until you actually do the work. You do the consistent kind of lifting the dumbbell. If you're asking me, hey, Ramon, I want to run a marathon next week, I'm going to say you can't. If you've never ran a marathon before, if you haven't ran on a daily basis, then if you do, you absolutely can, right? So it's just a matter of repetition. So the positive thinking is simply a muscle. And with repetition, it's not magic. You feel confident. Confidence is an outcome of these repetitive workout. That's all there is. Okay. So with that, I'm going to share my screen because I want to start with the journey itself. So but before I actually share my screen, because I want to be connecting you all, I just want to see how is everyone doing on this Friday. Now we have Dee, you just joined us. Welcome, welcome. We have a group of beautiful, beautiful women in here, and I'm so glad you're keeping me company. So why don't you drop in chat a word that describes how you're feeling right now? And make it really fun. We're tapping into our right brain, people. Happy it is Friday. Yes, Emily. One word, please, for how that illustrates how you're feeling right now. Vacation. Yes, Liz. I hope you are in vacation. I hope you have spring break. So we're in vacation mode. We're in happy mode. All right. We're tapping into that positive side of our brain. Shedding. Yes, Maura. Well, it's spring, you know, we are shedding stuff. Um, I love that. All right. Let's see a couple more. Share one word that represents how you are feeling right now. And you don't have to feel positive or happy, by the way. You really don't. And I will say that I am feeling excited. Busy. Yes, D. Apprehensive. Now we're getting, now we're getting into it. Okay. The thing is that this is, so the challenge here, by the way, when we say, side note, how we're feeling, it's difficult to know why, because we're feeling many things at the same time. We never just feel one thing, right? So I could feel excited right now and a little nervous. And maybe my mind might be going into the future. So there's always that. So just remember that whatever you're feeling, there's a lot more that you're feeling than maybe what you're aware of. So with that, let's connect to my screen. Here we go. All right. So as I mentioned, the goal will be for you to feel unstuck, to get from whatever to you feels like stuck into a sense of empowered. Okay. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, as I mentioned, there is this, what I call a purpose-driven career journey, because ultimately, whether we are aware or not, we are looking for more than just a salary, a job, a paycheck in our career. And we're also looking for more than status. I know that because I had both of those and I decided to drop it all, even though I had a mortgage in San Francisco, to go do something else. And not because I was crazy, but because it felt that I could no longer go on. So I was on this first step where I wanted to change, but I really resisted that for a while. So on this journey, the four steps that I'm seeing, and I drew this as a circle because it's almost our career kind of grows in a circular way. You've been through this a few times, I would bet, and then you probably will go over and over. It's the carousel, but we're going to go at a higher level with higher energy and maybe with less disruptions emotionally as we kind of go around the carousel a few times. So the first step on this circle is I want to change, but I resist it, right? We resist change naturally. So for example, I see a lot of people who are sharing with me that their most recent role was really successful, but at some point it just didn't feel fulfilling, right? Or some people say, look, I just have the capacity for so much more. My job is awesome. But then when it really comes down to how energized I am by my job, people are like, well, if I'm really honest, this is an amazing job. Anyone would be jealous of me. And I know my friends think I'm crushing it, but I really only love about 20% of it, if I'm really honest. Now, we're not supposed to love 100% of it, but there's something about this law of thirds that I've seen that many people talk about, which is like a third of what you're doing you should love. A third maybe is just kind of stuff that's important that you know is important to do. So it's not about loving it, but you know it's really important and it's what your job is about. And you know, intellectually is really stimulating and it is you're doing the right thing. But then there is a third where it's just kind of soulless, where it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, it's like paying taxes, or it's like, I have to attend this one more meeting or whatever. And that's okay, as long as the work itself is feeling in some way that is aligned with your purpose. And of course, the question is, well, what is my purpose? And we that's a big question, and the purpose constantly evolves as we evolve. So that's always a question to kind of ask yourself. What and purpose is such a wide, overly used word. And I might say, think about your values. Like, does it align with your genuine values that you absolutely must have? So at some point, going back, so the step one is really kind of feeling like, I'm not really feeling amazing in this role. So I think I want to make a change, right? That sometimes people say I want a completely different career. So some people I coach have considered, quitting completely, and they did. Others shifted from one department to another, kind of trying something else. We're always changing, right? So our work will always reflect that. And then finally, we're getting to a point for whatever reason, we're just kind of over it, or we're let go, or something like that. We're either pushed to make a decision to change or look for a job, or we decide that it is time. That's very, it's very common that those two use cases, if you will, happen. Now, the next step is whatever the case may be, you are now determined to make a change. I'm going to find a new job. I'm going to change my career. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to find, investors for my startup. I need a change, right? So this is the point where we begin to work with our mindset, because you are determined to make a change, which means that you are going to do a bunch of new things that are in the unknown space. Change means unknown. And that's when we get triggered. And so as you begin to kind of get clear on a vision and you begin to really connect to your strengths, like getting real, these are my strengths and I need to own them, because the imposter syndrome or your inner judge or fear get fed by this underlying story that I don't know what I have to offer. So many people, I can't tell you how many people I coach who on paper, when they come to me, are just I'm so impressed. And then they're like, I don't even know what I have to offer. And I'm like, have you seen your resume? Have you seen your LinkedIn profile? You have a lot to offer. Yeah, but I'm not really sure if that applies here. Well, that's just the subconscious sabotage, self-sabotage that we all have. So we need to name those things, and that's what we're going to do today. Then the next step, and this is where I call mindset transformation. And I'm going to say that it's a lot more than the mindset that transforms here, as you transform. And I like the language that you used more. You shed something. And let me take it even further and be dramatic and profound for a moment and say there's an ego death that's happening here. Because by the way, this is sort of follows the hero's journey, the journey that I'm sharing here. There is a certain death and birth that happens here. As we are transforming, there is no other way around, because we are going to shed certain beliefs that we potentially have been carrying forever because we've been programmed in a certain way. So that stuff needs to go in order for us to move forward. And it does happen, and it happens subconsciously. If we can bring this into the conscious, it becomes even more powerful. So then we go into step 3. Step 3 is where I've identified what I want to do next. And that will be aligned consciously with my strengths and with my purpose. So this is where I own who I am. I own my strengths. I own my purpose. So as you are releasing those old ways of thinking, that's all there is. It's just almost a reboot of, not completely, right? There's a part of us that we're shedding because we've outgrown it. The core of who we are is there and is never going away, right? But now it's almost like we're seeing more clearly. And I hear people say things like, oh my gosh, I feel like myself again when we drop these saboteurs. And it is completely possible. And it's a matter of repetition, because what I'm about to share with you, it's not rocket science at all. It's just stuff you already know how to do and you probably already are doing subconsciously. We're just bringing it into the conscious. So this is about kind of adopting a new way of operating and new principles that you're going to uphold. And so then you're identifying kind of what you want to do. And I remember for me, it took me years to get to this step, from kind of step 1 all the way to step 3. I think this took me about 5 years. And I'm not saying it has to take that long. And in fact, my hope and kind of what I'm working towards is helping people kind of shrink that timeline. But it does take time for us to identify what is it that I want. So for me, it was a process that was pretty iterative, and it took a long time to get to coaching. I had no idea or interest to go into coaching from marketing research, none. But as we allow ourselves to organically grow, we allow ourselves to be curious. And that is part of the sage mindset that I'll teach. And so that is how we grow organically. Yeah, because we don't really know sort of what's in there. And if we open, possibilities begin to show up. So there's an element of let go in there. And that's the point of the shedding. So then you're identifying what you want, and you're nowhere near done, because then you actually need to kind of really step into it. So for instance, you're identifying what your next role is. You have dropped a lot of these self-sabotaging mindsets. Now you are clear about what you want. You're identifying a bunch of opportunities, and there's no doubt that you will begin to make progress. No doubt. And so now you're learning some strategies to prioritize. I work with people who already are at this stage, who are already quit their job 6 months ago, started a startup, for example. That's not the only example, because people also go the other way. I've coached people who went from having a business to going back into working for a company because that aligned better with their purpose in that moment. So then you're like, where do I even start? How do I even prioritize? Because procrastination is a behavior, is a result and outcome of feeling confused, of feeling the sense of it needs to be perfect before I move forward, before I present something. Say you have the new role. So this is also about kind of like learning how to manage yourself, and then say you get this best role ever up until this point that really truly aligns and it feels so good, and then ultimately is about kind of learning to really stand in that new role with confidence, whatever that is, right? So it takes time. But I wanted to share this journey with you because I think it's helpful to kind of see, oh, I'm at step one. Oh, I'm at step two. So I want to pause here and ask you, as you're looking at this, where are you on this journey? So type in chat. Where are you on this journey? Oh, you like the model. Thanks, Emily. Um, I love doing this. I love using because that's one of my skills. Um, Veronique, you're at step two, determined to make a change. Yeah. Okay. Okay, between 4 and 1, Liz. Okay. And by the way, I'm having fun with this journey. I've been thinking about step one is almost like winter. This is when stuff is it's unclear what's really happening. And step two is more like spring, like, okay, we're planting seeds. And then the harvest is at step four, I think. And I know, Emily, you're not making a specific job change, but you're trying to evolve. Yeah, aspects of 3 and 4. Okay. And then Maura, you're somewhere between step 2 and 3. Okay, cool. So that means, Maura, that you've decided to make a change, that you're actively in this space of looking and finding the right thing for yourself. Okay, cool. So give me a thumbs up if you feel like this, and Emily already said, do you relate to this journey? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What's a reaction? Does anyone feel like sharing a reaction to this journey? What's your reaction seeing this? So as you're looking at this journey, yeah, go ahead, Maura.
Um, yeah, I think for me, what's interesting is like I think at this stage of life, there's also like the personal side that fits into career. So I think it's like purpose-driven life journey, and career is a fundamental part of it. But almost like versus when I was 25, I would say career journey. Whereas now it's less like that for me. Like I flew out to DC a couple of weeks ago and I had this crisis like, can I really move to DC at this stage in life? Like, oh my God, even though the job was a dream job, it was like a career purpose-driven career journey. So I think for me, that's where I can't easily extricate the two, even though in some ways I would probably be like a dog with a bone if I could about getting a job, maybe.
Right, right. Well, it's such a good point. And honestly, that's the reality is that we're not. I mean, our career, our job is part of who we are. It's part of our life. It's not everything, but we can't separate. And I think that's an illusion that we can, because we cannot. We're the same person, whatever we go at work or at home. And I think this idea that we can separate that is like, well, this is just a job. I mean, I've tried that. I wanted so bad for my job to just be a job. It's not. It never is. It's all of you, right? It brings all of your values and the things that you care about. And it's not just a job. I think that's just a myth, and it's something we would like to believe. And it would be very convenient if it was. But we do seek purpose. We do seek self-actualization. We do seek fulfillment. That's just how it is. And we've evolved as humans. And I think we're evolving even more because we're no longer willing to take something just for money, because it won't last. It just doesn't. It's a short-term solution. So I know for all of you who are here, you are here because you want to have this purpose-driven career journey, which, as you said, Maura, it's about having a purpose-driven life, period. So all of these aspects, and shedding these inner saboteurs and ways we are holding ourselves back or stay in a space of anxiety, overwhelm, which we feels like I'm stuck, it's just something that we can work through. And, it's not just in our career. It definitely feels like in our day-to-day in our life. All right, good. So I'm glad that you guys like this. I love this because I love a good framework. All right, so we're going to move now into how do we actually self-sabotage along this journey, right? So let's just name the ways in which we are in our own way. And I say this with love, with compassion, because there's nothing wrong with us. We are self-sabotaging because there is a care. There is something in us that thinks it protects us. So I'm going to start with the judge. Now, I want to give full credit to this entire framework I'm about to share to Sherzad Sharmin, those of you who coach with me know about this book. I've mentioned it. I mention it every day, multiple times a day, because it is awesome. Positive intelligence is the framework I'm sharing with you. If you love this, go ahead and get the book. If you love this and you haven't done the saboteur assessment, I'll send you a link as a follow-up. Please do it. Because the purpose here is to begin to separate. I am bad. I am whatever. All the labels that we put on ourselves, to separate them from I am. From that to this is a tendency. And this is an evolved coping mechanism that is trying to protect me. So the judge is what you might call my self-critic. So this is the first of the 10. Now, in this research, and this is done at Stanford University, a giant sample of 250,000. And so they arrived at what are the key things that are in the way of people really performing well. And, it's not just about performance, it's about feeling well, right? It's about ultimately functioning well as a person, as a leader. So they arrived at these 10, but the inner judge is by far the biggest. So they almost kind of separated. They said, okay, this is by far the biggest factor. But then what happens psychologically is we don't just have the self-doubt, which is the expression of our fear. They call it the judge, but we also have 9 other ones. So as we move forward in the next few slides, just know that everybody has this. Why? I mean, unless some people, maybe maybe don't have this, or I should say, any healthy brain will have an expression of fear, right? And so this is our fear. And the fear, the core need is to protect you, right? So the judge, what does it actually sound like? Is what's wrong with me? What's wrong with other people? What's wrong with this economy? What's wrong with this company? There is a sense of disappointment, anger, anxiety. So when you feel those emotions, I am so disappointed, right? And we be careful with the language. I talk a lot about this in coaching. So important to name correctly. When we say I'm angry, I am disappointed, I am afraid, we want to use the language of I feel this. I am not disappointed. I feel disappointment, because we begin to separate, right? The emotion from me, who I am, this grounded person who has feelings. This is the human experience. So that way, we're kind of having a little bit of spaciousness where we can have some compassion for ourselves and for other people and for our circumstances, right? So it's really important to use that language. So when we feel disappointment, anger, anxiety, we are in the judge space, right? They call it the judge. You can call it my inner critic, whatever you want to call that, but it's that fear, right? And so the fear is then looking to find faults to kind of explain why is this happening. So what are the outcomes? So I wanted to share with you on these slides, what are the outcomes? What is the impact of each of these ways that we self-sabotage? So while the intention is good, it wants to protect you, it has a lot of negative outcomes. One is it diminishes what you're willing to ask for, right? So maybe if it says, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm not qualified, you're not going to be asking for in your next role. Maybe you're not even going to look for a role that actually is at capacity. I mean, I know a lot of people who are applying for roles that are below their capacity. And then they're like, I can't believe I'm not even getting those roles. Well, because they're not a fit, because you're not meant to take those roles, right? And so, but why are you even applying? Well, because I'm afraid, because so then we're switching. No, we need to stay focused on what is right? Not what I am desperate for. And that's what the judge does. It keeps us in survival brain. So you'll see in this book, they talk about, there's the survival part of our brain, and then there's the thriving part of our brain. Now, we want to switch from survival into thriving. Because if I am lowering my expectations because I'm so disappointed with the outcomes of looking for a role or with all the roles that are out there or roles that I see other people have, we are then putting ourselves in subconsciously, we put ourselves in survival. And then we're believing these super limiting stories. And all we're going to do is our brain then is going to look for facts to support that belief, right? To align. So it's going to be, oh, yeah, that's right. Of course, nothing works because look at that person, look at that person, look at that person. Okay. So our brain is going to then kind of really find uh, scenarios that are going to discourage you even further. That's why we get stuck. So we get into the blaming other people, blaming myself, shaming ourselves, feeling guilt, regret. It basically drains our vital energy, right? And it's really discouraging to have this clear head and be focused on really coming up with problem solving solutions, right? So we're kind of judging things as bad, and then it's harder for us to see the opportunity. And I think the worst thing that the inner judge in us creates is it makes it really unsafe for us to take risks. And so then no wonder that we're not really going for the thing that we want, or even learn from mistakes, right? Because if I am going to make if I am going to take you know a step into the unknown, there will be some mistakes, there will be some risks, and so the judge will constantly make me feel ashamed about those, and it'll not allow me to actually learn from mistakes, which is what the sage does. All right. So here are the other mindsets that are limiting your career growth. So what happens is, so according to science, so we have the judge, but then there are a bunch more. So here they are, and it's really cool. I like how they have them laid out as what is the motivation of each of these mindsets and what is the style. So we're not going to focus too much on that, but I just thought it was really cool that as you think about what is it that you want, so it's sort of each of these mindsets, and we'll go pretty quickly, but we'll go one by one, is it kind of tells you what is the motivation, right? So for me, one of my top saboteurs is the avoider. And why? Because I one of my core values is freedom. So, but I avoid hard things. I avoid tough conversations. So knowing that about myself, then I can name it and say, oh, that's not me. That is my avoiding tendency. Gives me choice. It puts me in a place of having a discernment about what do I want to do and who am I? I am not a person who avoids. I have a tendency to avoid when things get hard. Yes, I do. But I'm not an avoider, right? But this is the inner avoider. So it's important to separate again to just be able to name these things. All right. Another one of mine is the pleaser. Why? Because I would love for people to like me, and I want people to accept me just as I am. These are universal tendencies, by the way. And when I say these are my top ones, it's more about seeing we're all sabotaged by all of these 10 things, the judge and these 9 mindsets. It's just that for some of us, because of our programming and conditioning, some are a lot more powerful at sabotaging us than others. So for me, for instance, the hypervigilant is not one of my top ones, but for some people, it's theirs. And so we're starting to work with the top ones, the ones that are impacting you the most. All right. So let's go, starting with my beloved avoider. But before I move any forward, actually, I want to stop here. And I just want to check in. What are you guys thinking about this concept? What's your reaction? Give me a reaction. And just unmute yourself and just jump in. Go ahead, Liz.
I'm curious to learn more about them because I'm confused about how they work.
You are? Okay. What's your question? I'm just curious.
No, just I guess that like how the style and the motivation like they go together, for example, to make
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
assertive like
Yeah.
assertive
Acceptance becomes hyperachiever. I don't like.
Yeah, totally. And I don't, don't even worry about getting it. I'm gonna say maybe your hyper rational is getting in here, huh?
That might
You're
be.
like, wait a second, is this okay? So, my inner researcher in me, just would love to go into this, but I don't want to derail us. But yeah, I would love to answer that. But all I'm gonna say is it will become clear enough in this workshop,
Yeah,
and then we can
we go.
definitely go into it. Dee, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I was just noticing how, um, it's not just either or. There are
Yeah,
different situations and different people I can see might bring out,
yeah,
one of these. And also, if I'm my situation, if I'm tired or
yeah, yeah.
so it's just like it's not one either or. I can just see all
Mhm.
of them in it's more dynamic, you know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you're absolutely right. Especially when we're tired. We call it I'm my worst self. Yes, all of these are going to flare up. What's interesting when you do the self-assessment is you'll see which ones are your top three ones. And those are the ones we cover in coaching because they sabotage you more than others, but expect to have every one of these, right? Like we recognize ourselves in this. And we have like dozens of emotions generated by more than just these mindsets. So, but these are just the top ones that, according to science, we all have. So they're the universal saboteurs. And I'm curious, without taking the assessment, as we move through these next slides over the next 10 minutes, which ones are, so maybe type in as I go through the slides and just say, maybe if the avoider is one that you're like, oh my God, this must be one of my top ones, then just write that in chat. Okay. All right. So we're going to go in one by one, just so you can recognize them. And the goal here is for you to get to know these tendencies and be able to maybe walk away from this workshop today and say, oh my gosh, now I can see this is the avoider that is stopping me from taking action right now, from networking, from sending an email to this person, from applying for this role, etc. So all I want, my goal here today is for you to get to know these inner voices. So you can just name them because that creates already a sense of agency and willpower, right? Paves the way for willpower. So the avoider just focuses on the positive and the pleasant. Ah, how I love my avoider. And basically procrastinates. So, when I work with managers who have people in their teams and they're like, oh my gosh, this person procrastinates. They're so nice. They're so great, charming to talk to, but then they don't deliver when they say they will. Well, it's because they avoid. Uh, because the inner avoider, that is part of our human DNA, it procrastinates, avoids things that are difficult. And it really suppresses negative emotions. And so the outcome, so the bullet points underneath that is the outcome is that it procrastinates because the core need is to feel happy. So, if I have to prepare for an interview, I'm going to just delay that. If I have to prepare for presentation, maybe I'm just going to instead check my Instagram for an hour. So it procrastinates because it wants to feel happy, right? And it avoids challenging, it makes you avoid challenging yourself and even admitting what you really want because it's just much nicer to just be in the moment. But the issue is that there's this constant simmering anxiety, knowing subconsciously that you're avoiding stuff. And that's where the beating yourself up comes in. So the avoider paired with the judge, because the judge is never alone, it works with a couple of these, then that's where we feel stuck. Okay. So the next one is controller. By the way, it's really fun if you have kids and you want to give the assessment to them. OMG, my kids did it and they're like, oh, my controller. Or they'll name me for it, even better. Like, your controller showing up, mommy. I'm like, oh, thanks so much. Okay. Point taken. All right. So the controller is this anxiety-based need that wants to take charge and it really wants to control other people, right? And there's this sense of anxiety and impatience when that's not possible because let's be real, you do not control other people. You get to influence them, maybe. So the core need here is to protect from being hurt or betrayed. But what is the outcome of the control? How is this actually keeping you stuck? Well, it distracts you from bigger things because you're like, oh, look at my list. I did 10 things. But what about the more important thing that you're putting off, right? And then there's too many things that are just not controllable. So then there is this sense of like, there's something wrong with me. Why am I not controlling these things, right? And it's not that we have the language to say I am controlling, but this is how it happens underneath the surface. And so there might even be this you might confront people. The control wants to be in conflict because it's looking for blame. It's looking for winners and losers. Why is this not working? I need to know right now, right? Because I want to be in charge, right? Great. By the way, these are core needs that we have, which is why I really wanted to highlight the need here. So they are evolved survival mechanisms. I have a need that needs to be fulfilled. I want to protect myself. So I learned, we're all being taught by our parents to control things. None of these things are bad. None of these saboteurs are bad. They are ways in which we overfunction. That's all. You should be controlling some things, but it's just when that is taking over, which it does, without us being in charge, without us focusing, that's where they become saboteurs. Next one is the hyperachiever. Our culture is telling us to be this, is training us to be hyperachievers. We're constantly dependent on the grade, on the achievement, on the promotion. The need is to feel worthy. The issue with this is that we played safe because we don't think we can deal with rejection. And so we're staying in our comfort zone, right? And so we're less likely to be vulnerable, of course, because I'm so dependent on the outcome. And then it certainly leads, and this is an issue with our culture right now, to workaholic tendencies. And I personally feel this all the time because who am I without achieving? So it's something to really watch out for, the hyperachiever. Then there's the hyper rational. This is one of my top three. Really intensely focusing on the rational. It's just the way I'm wired and certainly the way I'm programmed to be rational, to not feel my feelings. So it focuses on the data a lot. So it's a left brain predominant. It's not showing emotions, but that leads to lack of trust. So if you go into an interview and you're really kind of super rational, maybe someone might be wondering if you're able to lead a team in a way that they can trust you, so they can feel they connect with you. You might come across as intimidating, intellectually superior, uncaring. There's a habit of skepticism and cynicism that really does tend to lower creativity. So there's a badge of honor here about like, look how smart I am, but then can I also connect with my creative self and come up with creative solutions? Okay, then we're going to the hypervigilant. Super anxious that something's going to go wrong. Something is going to be bad. And the core need here is I want to feel safe. Of course, right? But then what happens? The way this is overdone is that you become overly cautious and conservative and really are not able to think outside of the box because that would be risky, right? You're missing important opportunities because you're not going for the biggest impact. You're going for the biggest, you're solving for safety, not for impact, not for creativity, not for fulfillment, right? And there's a bias for risk management. So can you imagine how that then limits your strategic thinking? All right, then we have the pleaser. Yes, I am so familiar with my pleaser. Got me a lot of things in life, pleasing people. And it is how I was raised. And a lot of our culture says, especially to us women, be nice. You're a little girl, be nice. Don't say that, right? So then, of course, the core need here is to belong and be liked, right? Because if I'm not nice, I'm not going to be liked. I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe. So the sense of self-worth then really comes from helping other people. Again, all of these are beautiful aspects of our humanity. But when it is overdone, which is what I'm showing here for you to understand where this might be hurting you, where are you relying too much on being liked and not challenge those around you? Where are you playing it safe because you don't want to feel rejected? Where are you spreading yourself too thin and you're resentful of other people, right? And you tell other people what you want them to hear, and maybe even change yourself so that people like you, and not really telling the truth. And so this is really hurting from a leadership perspective, because if people see you as too much of a people pleaser, then people are afraid that you're not going to tell them the difficult truths of what's really not working. But I think the worst thing as you think about being in a career transition is that you might not be admitting the difficult truth, because pleasing other people is sort of putting this this rose-colored glasses, which then inevitably you're also going to experience, and you're not really going to name what is really not working, right? So we're not being honest or authentic. The restless, a lot of us in this day and age are actually restless because we have all these devices, but this is more than just that. This is about constant, the FOMO. It's seeking excitement, or maybe seeking to prove yourself, but also the need is self-nurture. So we're easily distracted, impatient. Why is this not working? Okay, drop this. I'm going to move to this other thing. So you're not really sticking with things for long enough time to work. So I certainly felt that with my my small business, where I'm like, maybe I should drop this. Maybe you should do something else. Well, stick with it is really what my coach has been telling me. Stick with it. Really be agile and solve for your goal, rather than assume, which is what the judge or the restless wants you to believe, which is, it's not working. Well, it just needs to be optimized. Things take time, right? So when we're restless, we're just not present enough, right, to pick up on the moment-to-moment clues of how things are really going and what's really happening. And we might have even trouble holding others accountable because we're assuming that other people are sort of wiggly like we are. The victim. The victim is, I would say, out of all of these, has the lowest amount of energy. So when you feel this sense of victim, and again, we feel all of these sabotaging tendencies are triggered by situations. And we all at some point feel like a victim, and where we feel alone, feel helpless, we feel guilty, right? And we feel defeated, and we just want to kind of give up, right? How is this sabotaging you? Let's count the ways, and these are just a few. Other than it feels really bad and leads to apathy, depression. It really overly focuses on your audience's negative reactions. So when it comes to interviewing, influencing people, working with other people towards a goal that you have, such as looking for a job or finding a job that's fulfilling, you are so focused on people's negative reaction that you basically take things personally. The sensation of constantly being wronged by others ends up you distrusting people and then stuck in resentment. Really disempowering, the most disempowering space to be. You're not taking accountability because maybe you're blaming other people. A lot of these, again, are subconscious. And then, people are going to withhold their feedback to you because they don't want to trigger that inner victim. So we will all feel at some point these tendencies. It's important to empower ourselves and just see them for what they are, that to not identify with any of these. Then we have the stickler. That's really our inner perfectionist that says, I often hear people be like, well, I just need to do this work because no one else can do it as good as me. Well, is that true? And is that really helpful for you, for your own priorities, and maybe for your team? So if you have really high standards, yes, again, our society is telling us be perfect, do not make a mistake. It's not really helpful, because what we also know is that perfectionism is unattainable, and what we want is to do things good enough and move on and try things, make some mistakes, learn from mistakes, and then try it again. That is the reality of life. We're never going to be perfect. And if we are perfect, we kind of miss the boat because we haven't really taken risks to learn from those mistakes, right? So we know that learning is experiential, and in any experience, we will have some things that do not work that we are supposed to learn from. So the core need is to do the right thing. Understandable. We've been taught and absolutely programmed to do the right thing, but it really limits us, right? Because it moves away from the big picture. When we're so perfect and stuck in details, we're wasting way too much time on details rather than actually being in action, which is what's going to really tell us how things are going. And then it's really when we work with other people, that can be an issue. So be careful when you interview for a role, so you're not appearing too perfect, because that might say that you might not be a really good team manager working with other people, because maybe your ego always will step in and do it right and not let other people develop, right? So being careful with and aware, I should say, right? Because again, this is about you transitioning to a new role. Being aware of these things is going to be super helpful. So we're going to move into the SAGE mindset. I want to pause here, and I'm curious just to check in. What is your reaction?
I have
Alan?
a question, Ramona.
Go ahead, Veronique.
So once you have identified your, like kind of saboteur, like let's say, I think I'm like hyperachiever. What do you do on a everyday level to kind of work on it and avoid that to not reaching your maybe goal or doing what you need to do or be aligned with your vision and so what is it once you know who you are, like, okay, what do I do with it?
Exactly. Such a good question. And that's what we're gonna do next. Look, the thing is, if you want to go from here, I'm gonna use the here to New York for some reason that sticks with me right now. And if you are seeing that you're off, that now is helpful, because you're like, oh, okay, so at least I know that this thing is derailing me. And we know, in psychology and cognitive behavioral therapy, that being aware is 50% of the work. Being unaware is really the problem. Being aware, I have more of a chance to impact. Now, we also know from science that any emotion, such as I'm so disappointed, or I'm so, I really want this thing, or maybe I'm really restless, or I'm really hyperachiever, or I'm an avoider, which is mine. I'm super familiar with that. At least I can say, and this is really important, is prepare. If you know, for instance, that you have a leaky, I don't know, oil in your car, you're going to at least prepare, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm going to watch out. Next time I stop, I'm going to look under my car. I'm going to see if it's leaking. So what I'm recommending in real specific ways, and I'm going to share in the next couple of slides, is check in. Where am I feeling that today? Prepare. It can be looking at your calendar and be like, where is my hyperachiever going to be triggered today? Okay, I'm going to remember to take a deep breath.
This is Dee.
Hi,
And
Dee.
I just wanted to say, it's the awareness also for me is for the other person, because if I can have a sense of what state they're in, then I can depersonalize it. Also,
Yeah.
I might see how their whatever. I'd be interested in some of the common pairings, like their victim might trigger my controller, or I'm not sure, but
100%.
it's nice to be aware of these, because
Yes.
other people have them, and then it helps me realize it's about them and where they're at, and then I can check in with me and where I'm at if I'm triggered.
Yeah.
So I love
Yeah.
that information.
Yes. So getting to know this in yourself and in other people, it really helps depersonalize, because we get stuck when we take things personally. And this way, at least, it gives you a little more agency to say, it's my avoider coming in. No wonder. And that's where we can bring our compassion, right? There's my hyperachiever. No wonder I feel this way, because this is how I've been operating. This is how I've been taught, right? I can have then that empathy for other people. No wonder they feel this way, right? Now it's a lifelong work for us to do this mental fitness work, which is another way of saying be mindful of these mindsets and really work with with our own brain, relax, get into a neutral state for our nervous system, to be able to have choices. We're looking to create a mindful way of operating that gives us a little space between the stimulus and the reaction. So I can be a little thoughtful. Oh, there's my avoider. Oh, today my hyperachiever is going to get triggered. I know that. May I have the compassion for myself? May I have the grace to kind of give myself a moment to breathe when I feel that? That is the mini work. The consistency will get us to be more at choice, right? So let's look at the sage mindset. What are we switching into? What is a better way? So this is what in positive psychology, positive intelligence in particular, is referred to as this more empowered part of our brain. They call it the thrive region of the brain, which, you know, they do MRI scans and put people in this space by connecting to their empathy, showing them pictures of puppies, of babies, where we immediately are connecting to a different part of our brain. And so in brain scans, people, you know, scientists can see where in our brain is what parts of our brain get activated when it comes to connecting to this sense of empathy, of love, of curiosity, of intuition, innovation, right? What is that? And so that tends to be more in the right part of our brain, but not just there. But it certainly is away from our limbic part of our brain that is this fight or flight. This is more where we are in a relaxed state, that we can access the sage. To your point, Dee, earlier, when you're tired, you're most likely not going to be as easily connected to your inner sage, which is why resting is so important. So what is the sage that which is the empowered space that we're talking about today? It's really the part of us that generates these positive emotions while handling challenges. This is a workout. So getting from the survival part of our brain into the sage, into our inner sage, it is a workout. It's the equivalent of you going to the gym. It's the equivalent of you stopping your day and doing yoga, of doing whatever workout you're doing. This is not normal. It's not natural unless you are holding a puppy or a baby, or you are completely relaxed on the beach. This is not going to come naturally in your day-to-day. When you have deadlines, you have things to do. When you're about to apply for a job, you're about to ask for a raise, you're about to, you know, kind of give in your resignation. This is not normal. This is there, though. I can tell you from coaching multiple times a day that when I am guiding people and when I guide myself, you right now can connect to that inner sage. You just have to be a little relaxed. And so, and I'll show you in a moment how we do this because we're going to practice. So, but the mindset here is that every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift and opportunity. There are exceptions. There are tragic things happening that we will not, as a human being, be able to do that without. So with that exception aside, grief is one of the examples that are difficult to be seen as a gift and opportunity. With those exceptions, everything else can be turned into a gift and opportunity. So we don't want to immediately, when I just got rejected from a job as a coach, I'm not going to ask someone what's the opportunity here, because that would not be compassionate, because we need time to process. We need time to breathe. But here's the amazing thing that blows my mind. And I know this and I've seen this all over. This is a scientific fact. Any emotion does not last more than 90 seconds without the mindset to support it. So when I'm disappointed, it used to last days. Then it used to last hours. It still lasts hours sometimes, depending on what it is. But I am now much more quickly able to recover. And I'm just speaking sample of one, because I just am in integrity and I'm just sharing with you how I'm feeling. I'm not perfect. I am dealing with every single, obviously, right? We're never going to be perfect. That is not possible. But we are able, the goal is for us to recover much more quickly into this space. So recovering quicker from disappointments, from blaming, from shaming, from criticizing is the goal here, right? So being able to connect to the sage more quickly. the intensity of our negative emotions should go down. Maybe it won't. Maybe if I get into, God forbid, a car accident, like that intensity will be high. But with some exceptions, the intensity of these negative emotions will go down. Okay, so the intensity and the recovery time are going to be two indicators that you will know that you have strengthened your inner sage muscles. It's simply a muscle that we practice. So then setbacks become opportunities to stretch and grow. Again, it's a workout. This is not going to be something that you can do immediately or easily. It's a workout. So you'll be like, all right, I'm in a relaxed state. Now, if this situation was if I'm willing to believe that this is an opportunity for something, I didn't get the job, I'm in a calm state, it's been a while, now I'm relaxed. Okay, how is that an opportunity? If this was an opportunity, let's work with that hypothesis. What would that be? And then you will be surprised how your brain is coming up with reasons. Yeah, this is an opportunity for me to maybe learn something. So maybe I just learned something new, right? Another gift, it can be, wow, I just now have more power to pause and respond rather than react. Even though I didn't get the job, for example, gosh, that's amazing. I'm able to react, to respond sort of in a more positive way. Oh, and be more sort of resilient than before, right? Before, maybe it would take me, as I mentioned, days to recover. Wow, look at that. So this is showing me the gift of, having the gift in this situation is that I'm realizing I have more power than I knew I had. And then what happens is we can then empower other people to do the same thing. Maybe your friends are seeing you and they're like, huh, she did it. Oh, maybe I can do it too. Maybe I won't die if I get rejected from the next role, etc. So there is in every opportunity, in every situation, there's the opportunity or gift of one of these things. Maybe I just learned something new. I didn't get the job, but I learned something new. Maybe I now feel more empowered to kind of apply for more jobs because look, it didn't kill me, didn't break me. And then there's the gift of inspiration, for example. So if you're wondering, I wonder what the gift could be in. Maybe it's a gift of knowledge, maybe it's a gift of power, or maybe it's a gift of inspiration, right? So maybe I feel inspired. Maybe I have a sense of compassion for myself, or maybe I now am learning because I failed at this thing to have more empathy for other people because my ego used to be so big. And now, you know what? Maybe I just recalibrated and I can then feel more positive emotions that will further inspire me to be, essentially, I survived this and actually I'm okay. And that's how you build resilience and confidence is an outcome of putting yourself out there. So that's the sage. Now, the question is, how do I shift into that desired state that feels good? Again, it's part of our brain. It's available. It's available at all times, right? So what are some strategies? So these are the 3 strategies, according to science, that are going to help you with consistency shift more regularly into the sage mindset. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to practice it now. So what we're going to do, so I'm going to ask you to think about a situation, a challenge that you're experiencing right now. You don't have to share it, but I want you to bring that to mind right now. Okay, I'm thinking about one. Now, here's what I want you to do. Let's practice this because you're going to do this in the real world. So I want to invite you to, we're going to practice these. So I want to invite you to close your eyes. I will close mine. Okay. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths together. And all we're going to do now is just elongate the inhalation and the exhalation. Okay. I'm doing this with you. So make the inhalation longer and the exhalation even longer. So we're slowly calming our nervous system and becoming centered in this present moment. And sense in the next, now we're going to take 3 more breaths, normally, normal breaths. And now I want you to tune into your body and sense, perhaps, is there a tension in your body somewhere? With the next breath, send just care and attention and love to that part of your body that needs your attention. Almost like a mini embrace of that part of your body. Right? Now, with your eyes closed, I want you to think about, now you're in a calmer, more center state than a few seconds ago. Now, I want you to think about this challenge. So bring to mind the challenge. And as you are bringing that to your awareness, I want you to connect to what is the expression of your fear there. Which of these ways, tendencies, saboteurs are you sensing related to that challenge? Okay, now feel free to open your eyes slowly or slowly coming back to the present moment. Okay. And now you might want to write that down or type it in chat, or maybe take another minute, 30 seconds to think about what is the saboteur that you might feel. And I'm going to bring back our slide here. Okay, the avoider. So take a look at this. Don't worry about the axis. Just look at the potential saboteurs that might be at play. Or it could be just the judge, but take a look at these. See if you can identify one of them. And this is just a practice, doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you've identified a saboteur here. Actually, I might not be able to, yeah, let me see in here. Okay. All right. So most of you have. All right, perfect. So you've identified that. All right. Now we'll go back. Whoops. Now let's go back to, now that you have intercepted, now in real time, in real life, when you will pause and ask yourself, what am I really feeling? How might I be self-sabotaging? How is my fear maybe an expression of my fear not supporting me right now? You just intercepted that. Ah, there is my avoider. Okay. So that is the first step, is intercepting this fear-based thinking that is really focused on protecting you and surviving, right? And this is where, it might be, we might be in that space motivated by stress, anger, guilt, shame, or insecurity. And again, the reason we have this built in is because this is how we're used to motivating ourselves into action. So we're kind of scaring ourselves into action, right? But we're just noticing that's what's happening. All right. We intercepted it. Now the PQ rep is the second strategy. Maybe you want to do a little more than just being aware of it. A PQ rep is essentially what we just did. So we did 2 PQ reps. We took 6 breaths together. Maybe you took more, but it's a 10 seconds. So 10 seconds is about the length of 3 breaths, normal breaths. And this is where you hyper focus on one of your senses. I directed you to connect your body, but you could do something like, and I'm going to actually show you how to do this. You're in a meeting, you're finding out about a new project you have to do that you don't want to do. Maybe you're finding out that maybe you're applying for a job, whatever the challenge is. You can redirect yourself. And this is neuroscientifically, it's proven that we can, if we, for instance, take these, our 2 fingers and we gently do this with me. rub your fingers gently, one against the other, right? So you were kind of rubbing, but rub it in such a way. Now, don't look at me. Maybe close your eyes and rub for a second. Rub your fingers in a way that you can sense the edges of your fingers. Okay. What happens there? You've just connected back into, redirected into the sage space. Why? Because your mind is now directed to sensing. It's hyperly focused on the ridges of your fingers. So your mind is going away from panic into your fingers, into your body. So we are showing our body that we're safe, meaning we're taking ourselves away from the survival part of our brain, redirecting into the sage, which is basically saying to our brain, hi, I'm safe. Right? And then from there, I can thrive. I can be creative. But if subconsciously I feel triggered into this fear space, right, then I'm going to be avoiding it. So I just want to bring myself back. So that's just one. So that's the touch is one. There could be sounds, kind of tuning into the sounds, etc. So it's really this foundational practice that when someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to feel less triggered and more confident in the moment, this is how we do it. We have to do, and this, believe it or not, science shows that if we do this 10 times a day, we are actually rewiring our brain within somewhere, depending on people and people's brains, somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 to 21 days. So it's about doing this 10 times a day, or it's the equivalent of a 10-minute meditation. But they found it really powerful to do a 10-second hyper focus, right? 10 seconds in between meetings. It actually works. I've been doing this myself. So it's really ultimately, it's about activating this part of your brain in a physical way, right? So now you've moved from intercepting your saboteur. Oh, there's my inner avoider. Let me do some PQ reps. You do maybe more than 10 seconds. I tell people do 2 minutes before a meeting or in between meetings. And now you're going to be shifting from this fear-based thinking, which is the self-sabotage, into the sage-based mindset, which is really motivated by curiosity. You're like, now that I calm myself a little bit, what might be an opportunity here, if there was? Because I want to look for the opportunity, right? The classic example is, if I tell you, look for red cars today, you'll be able to tell me, oh my God, I can't believe I've seen all these red cars. So, or when I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, everyone's pregnant. No, the same number of women are pregnant. It's just that now that's what I was focused on. So if we are focused on opportunity, we're naturally going to activate the sage brain, which is curiosity. I wonder what this is an opportunity for, right? Empathy, passion, purpose. We're able to connect, right? So the question is, can I really shift in the moment in tough situation? And the answer is sure, yes, you can. But you need to develop this mental muscle, right? So this is the repetition I'm talking about, the PQ rep, right? So that is what you need to do. So this is the program that I mentioned to you guys, but I'm going to pause before I mention the mastermind. I want to pause here. So I know I shared a lot. I love this stuff and I'm talking too much. I'm not checking in with you guys enough, says my inner judge. How is everyone feeling? Maybe just unmute and just share how you're feeling, seeing the possibilities here.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very practical. And it's easy to do the breathing and kind of like pause and rewind and like shift from a mindset that is a little bit, oh my gosh, this is not going to work, to, you know what, stop it, breathe, and then, switch to such a productive and positive mindset. And I like the fact that it's kind of quick to do and we can do it like any moment, kind of everywhere also. Maybe not at work, it might be a little hard, but yeah, I like practical stuff. So thank you.
So glad you came, Veronique. Yeah, it is possible. And it's not kind of pie in the sky inspirational stuff. This is real stuff. And it's how we train our mind. All right. So we call it mindset, we call it mental fitness. And so I want to share with you guys, for some of you might be completely irrelevant, but I do want to share this program that I am offering, where the positive intelligence, kind of the whole framework and the whole repetition and the fitness work, there's actually an app for it. And I'm a certified coach. And so I have access to offering the app to people. So I'm like, I want to create something where I can give people the same experience that I have. And the app itself is not available outside of, kind of for anyone to have it. It's just more for people who work with certified coaches. So, and I'll share in a second, kind of, I'll show you a picture of what the app looks like, but that's just a bonus that's included in this mastermind. But I want to share with you, in case you are in a place where you want to work with other people as you are transitioning. I know how helpful it is to just do this with other people, because it's really tough to do it alone. You can, of course, but if you feel like you would like to do this work with other people who are on the same journey, who are purpose driven, right? This is an offering. So essentially, this is a mastermind where I decided to offer it and see if people find it useful. I know I am part of masterminds and have helped me build my business, and I know how helpful they are. So this is specifically for those of you who are in transition and they're looking for a new role that is aligned with your purpose. So maybe you're on that first stage of the journey where you're like, I don't know if I'm kind of feeling stuck. Maybe I want to take the leap and look for a new role. Maybe you already are actively looking. Maybe you're already in step 2. Wherever you are, this is meant to support you so you can be with other amazing women like yourselves going through this process. So it's specifically for people transitioning to a new role. So I'll have some very specific modules that are designed to help you go through that. It starts April 19th. It's going to be at the same time, Fridays. And there are going to be 7 group coaching sessions, 1 private coaching session with me. And there's going to be a bunch of bonuses. And I just want to get to my website so you guys can read a lot more. If you are interested, if this feels relevant, forgive me while I scroll on can you guys still see my screen? Yes? Okay. All right. So I'm just going to scroll down because I want to show you, if this is of interest, or if you're curious, or if you know someone who can use the support in a transition. This is what it looks like. So in the first week, we're going to be essentially designed this to take you along the journey. So taking you from that step 2 on the journey all the way into step 4. So it's about, I'll help you clarify your vision. And so we're going to work together to really kind of get clear, because that's not easy to get into, be clear about what is the vision. Because once we know the vision, now we kind of know where we're headed. So then in week 2, we're going to work on releasing all of these disempowering beliefs that we just talked about. So it's going to be kind of working as a group. It's going to be a small group. As a group, we'll work on, it's not just receiving coaching, it's about working with each other. So it'll be kind of mini groups where in each session you will work together and be like, this is what I'm feeling. It's incredible what happens when you're with other people and you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling the same way. What are you doing? So there's a lot of crowdsourcing and sharing that happens in a mastermind, which I love so much. And then there in week 3, we'll look at very specific, kind of practicing this mindset transformation. I kind of gave you a taste of it today. There's more to it, but that's the basic one that you can practice on your own. And then we'll talk about how to break free from the fear of rejection. So I'll show you how to kind of do that and really stay in your unshakable confidence no matter what. Then in week 5, we'll focus on discovering your purpose and unique brilliance. So we're going to look at the genius zone. So I have some work. All of these will have worksheets for you to fill out before, so you can really kind of make the best of our time in the live sessions. But there's going to be a Slack channel where you guys will be connected, support each other. In week 7, I will teach about prioritization and how to remove procrastination. And I have a bunch of tools there. Then in week 7, it's going to be about communication and influence. So this is really about being able to really learn how to be persuasive. So I'll share some frameworks there. And then week 8, it'll be just a personalized coaching session where I'll walk you through actually having an action plan. Now, here's the awesome thing. And if that wasn't awesome, this is amazing. So I haven't offered this before because I wasn't certified before. Now I am. So bonus number 1 is actually having this app. I mean, the app in itself is going to help you enormously. It helped me. So the app is designed by Shirzad Shamin, and he has a whole organization. So it's pretty cool. So essentially you have this access to this app that is helping you with the rewiring. There's PQ practices, weekly focus videos, etc. So you can actually really run with this. The book has included measures your progress, etc. And then may I mention a one-day retreat in Santa Ynez. I see a typo there. So this will be a full day of us gathering in person. There's going to be mindfulness meditation by me. There will be a strategic planning session that we will do as a group. And there's going to be organic food. There's going to be sound bath and energy rebalancing by a local energy healer who is incredible. So this is free if you register by the end of this Sunday. Otherwise, there's a cost to it. So this is, by the way, the view from this estate. One of my best friends just got an amazing pad there. So that's why I'm able to offer it at a lower price. And then there's going to be also a private Slack channel for you guys to be supportive of each other. And then afterwards, there's going to be this Sage Leader Circle that will continue, where I'm going to be offering monthly workshops that are specifically designed for your needs. And then there's also a little discount in there. So I just wanted to share this. And so the pre-registration will give you a bit off from the cost. And then the retreat is included. So I just wanted to share this with you guys because it's something that I believe is supportive of people who are looking, for a new role. And so that's just another thing, another way that I can support you. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ramona.
Thank you, Ramona. That's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're so welcome. Thank you for joining me today. And maybe before you walk away, I would love if you could share in chat maybe one insight that you're like, I'm going to take this with me. This is one insight. So share in chat one insight that you're walking away with, because I know there's a lot here, but like there's something that is sticking. I would love to know what you personally found useful. Might be hypervigilant, and having that awareness is helpful. Yes, Allison. And I will follow up with you all with the link to the saboteur assessment. Mora, gaining positivity is akin to daily exercise. It is. It really is. PQ reps make space for my other sage voices to be heard. Beautiful, D. So I encourage you to take the saboteur assessment so you can see what are those top 3. And I'll follow up with a link. And thank you for sharing your presence today. Thank you for coming today. Thank you all. Good to see you. Have an amazing weekend. And let me know if you have any interest in the mastermind. I would love to share more and just find out more about your goals and see if it's a good fit.
Thank you, Ramona.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. Good to see you all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.